Morning and welcome to the Tuesday, February 28th Board of County Commissioners meeting. We do begin our meetings with an invocation. Today's invocation will be provided by Lori Hannenberg of the Sheriff's Office. Please stand and join us in your own way.
Good morning. If you'll bow your heads with us and follow however you choose. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather here in such an important venue. Father God, we pray that you will be with those that are making decisions in our county. We pray that you will watch over our county and our community and our citizens, provide them your safety and your many blessings. Father, we are grateful for the opportunity to come before you in this beautiful city, state, and county. Thank you for all that you do and all that you provide. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Lori. And our pledge will be led by Sheriff Joe Roybal today. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items, and there are no staff emergency items today.
And item number 4.
Item number 4 is consent to appoint deputy district attorneys, appointment of Nicole Phillips and Johnny Lombardi, Brent Nelson, assistant deputy district attorney.
Good morning, Commissioners of El Paso County.
Morning.
My name is Brent Nelson. DA Michael Allen had another obligation and asked for me to stand in for him today. I come here today with exciting news and a request for consent to appoint 2 district attorneys who have started with our office in the last month. They are Nicole Phillips and Johnny Lombardi. We're excited because these are 2 people that come to us with a great deal of experience, both in law enforcement and prosecution work. First, Nicole, who started with us earlier in February, comes to us from San Antonio, Texas. I hope you've been provided with their resumes or some materials about their backgrounds because they're quite impressive. She has a Bachelor's of Arts in Sociology from Tulane University and then attended law school at Lewis and Clark in Portland, Oregon. During her time as a district attorney, a prosecutor in San Antonio, she's done over 50 jury trials and handled at least 3 murder cases. That is very helpful to this office as we are experiencing, bless you, currently a crime surge. We need people that can come in and hit the ground running and assist us. Next, we have Johnny Lombardi, who started with us a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Johnny comes to us from the 5th Judicial District up in the mountains. Summit County, is that one of the counties up there? Yeah. Johnny, however, has been around in law enforcement for quite some time. He was a police officer both, I believe in, where was that up north? Arvada, and also in the state of California. He's also had a distinguished Air Force career, receiving a Commendation Medal for Heroism and Outstanding Achievement. He then went to law school. He's done about everything there is. He's even been a criminal defense attorney for some amount of time. So joining us now with both experience in gang prosecutions and homicides, we are so excited to see what they will do for this community. And for our victims in El Paso and Teller counties. So at this point, I'll turn questioning over to the commissioners, and I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, and welcome to both of you. Would you like to say anything? And then I'll bring it up here, and we generally have a few questions.
No, I don't think I have anything to say. I just wanted to thank you all for your time, and I'm really happy to be here.
I would echo the same, and it's a pleasure to be here and to serve the county.
Excellent. Well, welcome to you both. Your resumes certainly round out very well, and as usual, our district attorney has selected the best of the best. So excited to have you here. Are there any other comments or questions? Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll echo those comments. Thank you for joining us now at this point. And I have done a quick review of the resumes, and there are some pretty impressive things here. And I know that both of you will contribute very well to providing justice and safety here in the community. And some of the things that I'd like to point out. So for Nicole, I think a district attorney in San Antonio, so you've got experience in other states, and you're published as well, which I think is great. An article, if I am reading this correctly, called "The Texas Prosecutor" and what all that means.
It was, so the Texas Prosecutor was our statewide prosecutor journal. And so I had an article that was published on the cover of that journal. And it was about doing the first Zoom sentencing. When COVID first started, I had a murder that I had tried in January of 2020. And so it was supposed to go to sentencing right as the courthouses were closing. And so we ended up doing that in May of 2020 via Zoom. And so I wrote an article about that that was published to all the prosecutors in the state of Texas.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that. But I tell you, when we have people here who are published and they're in well-regarded journals, those are great things, I think, for us. I see also work in Calumet, Louisiana, and Portland, Oregon, and I also you've I guess prior to becoming a lawyer, you worked in the AmeriCorps and did a lot of work in that arena. So that's a great community kind of effort that goes on across the country. We have a little of that going on here in El Paso as well.
Yes,
So-
yeah, I did two terms of AmeriCorps, one in Mobile, Alabama, and one in Chalmette, Louisiana. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you. And also for Mr. Midlock, I appreciate your background as well, having been admitted to the bar in 5 different states, if I'm reading this correctly. 4? Oh, okay. I'm one off. My apologies. But also, I mean, the kind of background you had, and it was already previously mentioned, having been a police officer, an investigator, done some of this work in California, some in Nebraska, working in the 5th District here in Colorado, and working as both appellate and trial counsel. Both of you have great backgrounds, and I think you're going to really contribute in great ways to the 4th Judicial District. So thank you for now being part of our team. And we will have one last official act to make it official, but we'll be there in a moment.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes, I wanted to say I reviewed both of your resumes and was just incredibly impressed as I reviewed them last week. So instead of asking for your favorite football team, I'll just say thank you for coming down from the mountains down to the valley. We're happy to have you, and thank you for coming up from Texas. So we really appreciate it.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. As always, I have a great deal of confidence in our DA's office as a whole, and Michael Allen as our DA. And so I'm pleased to see another 2 wonderful selections to the office there. I know you're going to do a great deal to protect our community. A lot of times people talk about public safety, and we think about a sheriff's office and that side of public safety. And it's so important that we have fantastic things going on over at the DA's office and making sure that we are holding criminals accountable and making sure that we are getting that justice for victims. So thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you all around.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, wonderful backgrounds already kind of detailed here. This is going to be great additions to a district attorney's office, and so congratulations. I too won't ask you your favorite football team. I'll just ask that you adopt our local Air Force Academy wonderful football team as your own. So,
Well said. Okay, with that, do I have a motion?
I move to appoint Nicole Phillips and Johnny Lombardi as Deputy District Attorneys.
And I'll second.
That has been moved and seconded. Any final comments here? All right, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Congratulations. That passes 5-0. You're officially appointed. Welcome.
Thank you.
Item number 5.
Item number 5 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. We do have one change to the agenda. We're going to consider item number 10 after item number 5. And the next meeting will be March 7th at 9 o'clock a.m. and the 1 o'clock p.m. land use meeting has been canceled.
Okay. And with that, we will now move on to item number 10, as just read by the clerk to the board.
Item number 10 is the proclamation recognizing the retirement of Bill Elder, Stan Vanderwerf, Commissioner, Board of County Commissioners.
Good morning. All right, Sheriff Roybal, and I think you have a few others that are coming down, so I'll stand by just for a moment for that.
Yes, I have most of the command staff coming down, and I believe Sheriff Elder is with us.
Okay, excellent. Is he online then?
He is.
All right. Let's just confirm that. Is Sheriff Elder online with us at this time?
There he is.
Oh, great. You got to look behind me here. There he is. Awesome. Okay. Outstanding. All right, let's go ahead and proceed. So I would like to make a motion to approve the proclamation recognizing the retirement of Bill Elder. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, with deep appreciation, hereby acknowledges the retirement of Bill Elder following his more than 31 years in law enforcement and 8 years as Sheriff of El Paso County. And whereas Sheriff Bill Elder joined the El Paso County Sheriff's Office in 1978 and as a 911 dispatcher, and over the course of 20 years rose through the ranks to lieutenant, and during that time he served in the demanding Metro Vice Narcotics and Intelligence Division. And whereas Sheriff Elder joined the private sector in 1998, successfully working in the commercial and residential real estate industry before joining the Fountain Police Department as the deputy chief in 2012. And whereas, feeling that he had more to offer in terms of the public service and safety, he decided to run for El Paso County Sheriff, where he was overwhelmingly elected to 2 terms in 2014 and 2018. And whereas Sheriff Elder sought to restore public confidence and integrity in the office, reform the culture of the organization, and deployed a number of policies that benefited the public safety of the community. And whereas the sheriff's office aggressively shut down foreign-linked drug cartels who had ushered in violent crime and endangered the public, stolen land and water, and destroyed property by establishing illegal marijuana grow syndicates in eastern El Paso County. And whereas during the enhanced enforcement, the sheriff's office served 551 marijuana-related warrants, seized 36,313 illegal plants, 9,032 pounds of refined marijuana, 1,476 grams of marijuana concentrate, 340 illegal firearms, and $2.4 million in drug-related cash. And whereas recognizing that mental health issues drive a large amount of emergency service requests, Sheriff Elder, along with other partners, deployed a co-responder model whereby a sheriff's deputy and a licensed behavioral health clinician jointly respond to emergency calls that are mental health related and which helps people receive the tailored resources they need during a crisis and diverts those in need of behavioral health services away from the jail. And whereas the co-responder model, known as the Beacon Unit, has a 99% success rate and is a model others have emulated. And whereas, under Sheriff Elder's leadership, the El Paso County Jail, which is the largest jail in the state, was recognized with the National Sheriff's Association Triple Crown Award, which means the jail received the simultaneous accreditation from the Commission on the Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies, the American Correctional Association's Commission on Accreditation for Corrections, and the National Commission on Correctional Health Care, recognizing accountability, commitment, and professional management of the jail. And whereas Sheriff Elder also improved the office by investing heavily in fair compensation for staff, as well as robust training and development to give deputies and civilian staff the tools and depth of leadership they needed to protect the public and ensure proper succession training throughout the organization. And whereas, for prioritizing public safety and restoration of public trust in the office, creating a culture of integrity and transparency, supporting his staff, and enhancing policing standards, Sheriff Elder's 2 terms in office will be fondly remembered by citizens, staff, and commissioners alike. Now, therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, hereby notes the long and distinguished service of Sheriff Elder to the community and proclaims its gratitude for all that he has accomplished and expresses its best wishes for all his future endeavors. Done this 28th day of February 2023 at Colorado Springs, Colorado. The Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, Cami Bremer, Chair, Carrie Geithner, Vice Chair, Lejinos Gonzalez Jr., Stan Vanderwerf, and Holly Williams, members, and attested to by Steve Schleicher, County Clerk and Recorder. Do I have a second?
Second?
I will second that.
Oh, second. Everybody's going to second it, I think.
We'll let the clerk decide who seconded there. So, well, outstanding.
That has been moved and seconded. And do you have any comments that you would like to provide? And then we'll let, we're going to roast you a little bit first, Sheriff Elder. And then, so you can have the last word before the vote.
Thanks, Madam Chair. It's not quite as fun with Sheriff Elder not here present, but I guess we have a little more latitude, right? We can get away with a little more since he's not here. It's an honor to stand up here and accept this for Sheriff Bill Elder. And next time I see him, I will gladly give this to him. But serving under 3 sheriffs during my career, it's been an honor to serve under Sheriff Bill Elder and the opportunities that he has given, not only me, but every one of his staff. It was a change in the culture that I hadn't seen before, where he put the trust in people to do what we believe was the best for the community. And if it didn't quite work out, we tried something new. And I commend him for allowing us to try different things. And if it didn't work the way we thought it would, he wouldn't drop the hammer. He would say, hey, let's regroup, let's try something else. So I'm very grateful that you allowed us to do that. You will let each of us grow as people and as professionals, and that will not be forgotten, sir. So thank you.
Any other comments from here in the room? Okay. Sheriff Elder.
Yes. How are you? Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me? Test 1, 2.
We can.
Okay. Joy and I, while we sit down here in Arizona, we think a lot about the fond memories that I have working at the sheriff's office. We talk about it a lot. It's a tough gig, and it is only because of the support that I have had over the last 8 years, especially my staff, but the commission. Without the support of the county commission, we would not have been near as successful. I am proud of what the agency accomplished, this staff and the people that preceded them, in putting the place back in line to where it should be as a premier law enforcement agency. And I'm very proud of the way these guys and gals operate the office, and I really do look forward to the future. So you're in great hands, though. I got to tell you, Joe Roybal is going to make a fantastic sheriff. He's chosen some great staff members, and I look forward to seeing what he does. So roast away.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other comments from the audience or members of the public before I bring it up here? Okay. Commissioner Williams.
Well, it's wonderful to see you, Sheriff Elder, and I do apologize that we didn't get to this in December. It seems like we were maybe a bit overwhelmed with some other things, but you look very relaxed. And so, and it's amazing to see a very reticent sheriff's department here, but they have thrived under your leadership. This is an office that needed a restoration of public integrity, and you brought that into the office, and we really appreciate that. I'd also like to speak as being on the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, the formation of the Beacon units, the behavioral health units, which would actually send out nurses to help when you had a mental health issue. There were obviously several issues that you had to deal with. That we had a shooting in one of my Glen Eagle neighborhoods that was a little bit harder, I believe, to deal with, and we thank you for being responsive to those issues. And then I just wrote down 3 words: the culture change and the trust and your integrity. I just appreciate all that you have done for this office, and I know that right now there's a statewide jail standards commission, and in my mind it's just kind of a relief. Why do we need a statewide jail standards commission? We've got it. So all they need to do is just follow our model. But there's a lot of work going on that. So we appreciate all that you have done on your service. We are going to miss you, but I understand we'll still see you around here sometimes. So just be careful not to get pulled over and get a ticket. So
Yeah, exactly.
thank you for coming today. We appreciate it.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. So I'm going to add, excuse me, I'm going to add, you look relaxed and maybe a little more tan. So I hope that you are enjoying your time so far in retirement, both of you. It is well-deserved, certainly. The time period that you were the sheriff of El Paso County was full of lots of interesting things, including what I think is truly a true minority of Coloradans, but was perpetrated down from our state government in terms of being very anti-policing and, really making things difficult for you as our sheriff and our entire sheriff's office to be able to continue and do the great work that we know our public wants. They want to make sure that they are safe, and they appreciate that. But nevertheless, that was a great challenge, and I am grateful for your fortitude during that period and throughout the time that you have served El Paso County. So thank you for your service to both of you, and happy retirement. And I hope you enjoy lots of that sun.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if we're going to be really roasting here. I think we just have compliments. This is it's hard to really take away from all the great accomplishments you've done and for our community in the service. And as was kind of touched on before, that rebuilding of the trust of your 8 years. So, I want to compliment you for that. The friendship we've grown in getting to know you these last 6-7 years has been wonderful. With the Commissioner Vanderwerf and I being the senior members of the County Commissioner Board, and starting way back when with some of the things that were hitting us hard, as I think was also mentioned, some of the the marijuana, the drug trafficking activities that were in the proclamation and the coming together to fight that, because we wanted to make sure that this community was the best it could be for our residents. The ups and downs, the sadness of lost lives, but bringing the community together and pushing forward, and then resiliency of our community and the department because of your leadership. And those are the things I'm going to remember and really cherish of that. And one of the last things you're going to leave here is a legacy. I look out here and I see some staff, the senior leadership here at the El Paso County Sheriff's Department. That's your legacy too. And we've got great leadership here, and you were the one who led them for so many years. And I appreciate all that work. And just thank you so much, and enjoy your time out there. I'm sure you're having some good fun out there.
Yep, relaxing.
And as is our tradition, we will let the comments finish up by Commissioner Vanderwerf. So I'll give mine now. It is so great to see both of your smiling faces. Joy, I know you were not elected as the sheriff, but you were his solid rock by his side through many ups and downs, as were described by my colleagues. I personally will never forget how heavily each loss and near loss affected you, and how you did just keep going and somehow managed to still inspire an entire team of people in an entire community to rally around you, rally around those families, and I'm just and all the while do your job of protecting the community as well. So I'm incredibly grateful for your service here. And protocol-wise, I did not know whether to call you Sheriff today or Sheriff Roybal, but I think you'll just always be known as Sheriff Elder to me, and certainly to my 8-year-old little boy with the police car. So Sheriff Elder and Joy, congratulations. Thank you for your service, and thank you for the way that you set up this office to continue to serve our community in a fantastic way. Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess it is left to me to do any of the roasting. But I'll just simply say, Bill and Joy, to both of you, thank you for everything that you've done. And I got to get one roast in here, and then I am going to talk about some of the great experiences that I think we have had together, serving the community and serving the public. But, as a fellow person who doesn't have a lot of hair, I see that you are now in retirement, and this must be you are now relaxed, because at the very top of your head, it looks like it's growing back. Yeah. Okay, that's the one roast I have. That's all I got.
And I swear it's getting color back to it.
I do want to thank both of you, Joy and Bill. And let's talk a little bit about some of my experiences with the Sheriff's Office under your watch. And there were many things that I think were very important here. The first one, which is the toughest one, if I will, and then there's some things that are really a pleasant and fun things. But serving 28 years in the Department of Defense in the Air Force, and in some cases commanding organizations and overseas locations that were difficult places to serve, that were dangerous. I was fortunate to never lose anybody under my watch. I had to become a county commissioner to lose 3 people, and they were all part of the Sheriff's Office. And Bill, you and I, and everybody here, all of law enforcement, every employee of the county, every commissioner has felt and experienced that anguish. But I am thrilled that you were the sheriff at that time, because I felt like you did everything we needed to do to honor those people, to get law enforcement from around the country to be here for them. In ways that were appropriate and dedicated, and it really helped all of us to heal. And you were the leader in that. Of course, it was always a team. There were a bunch of people that were always involved in making sure that that was done well. But you were the leader of it, and I felt like we did the right things to honor those people. So you and I have shared this, but we've shared it with so many of us. And that's the toughest thing to talk about during the time when you were sheriff. Now, some of the fun things. During your time as sheriff, I did 3 ride-alongs, traveled with several deputies. And you know what I got to see when I did that? I saw dedicated, ethical, hardworking citizens doing their job to keep the community safe. And they were able to have those attributes because everybody in the sheriff's office is dedicated to that. But it all starts with the leadership. If the leadership wants that, everybody falls in line. And when I saw that work, I saw people delivering safety to citizens by getting people that would otherwise maybe be dangerous to the community off the streets. But in doing it, I also saw arrests and deliveries of people to the jail for incarceration done with compassion. So long as that individual cooperated with law enforcement, those were compassionate arrests. Those were arrests that, I mean, when I was in the car and the person being incarcerated brought to the jail was in the back, we're having conversations and talking. So those were de-escalated environments. And I think that's a sign of the dedication of the team itself, but also the leadership that wanted that kind of delivery of service. And Bill, you were a key part of helping to make that happen. Now, I can remember several conversations that we had during the time that you were sheriff. And I'll just say it frankly, I do not think you were a fan of the election process for the 2 times that you had to run for office. That was something that I heard you express several times, you know, but you continued through those processes. You stayed true to what you believed in so that you could do what you do love to do, which is law enforcement and taking care of the team. So I saw that. And I thought that was very, very interesting, that what your real love is just taking care of the community and running a team of people that are dedicated to the same cause. Now, you know, as you know, that we went through several executive sessions dealing with some really tough legal issues, getting legal advice. But one of the great things about those is we got that legal advice together. That was the commissioners, that was Sheriff Elder, and other key team members of the sheriff's team. We did that together to make sure that we could navigate tough and tricky legal environments so we could get to the best outcomes for those environments on behalf of the community. But we did that together. And it was always a pleasure for me to go into those executive sessions and see the sheriff's team with Sheriff Elder there trying to figure out what's the best pathway, what's the best legal pathway for us to succeed and continue to deliver good, effective public safety for the community. And I also saw the sheriff's office take some big stands as well in fighting for citizens here when we were otherwise getting challenging legislation out of Denver. And I am grateful that the team was willing to do that. You know, part of that was just making sure that the law enforcement, the people that are dedicated to public safety, continued to have the tools in order for them to do the job and not to have those tools taken away from them. And in some cases, we won those, and in other cases, we lost those. But one thing that we can say for sure that we did is we always fought when we thought something was wrong. We always did that. And I was honored to hear about the battles that the sheriff's office did. Again, Bill, with your leadership, you had put a team together to try to do those, again, to ensure that we could deliver public safety, but also to make sure that our public safety team had the tools they needed to do that work. And then I'm also very proud of a lot of the work that you did in trying to improve community interface. I remember your participation before COVID kind of shut some of this down. I think they called it Coffee with a Cop or Coffee with a Deputy or something like that. But it was community outreach, and there was a lot of that going on, and that was essential and important. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of that now that we're back out of COVID. I think you are doing some already, which is great. And I also want to talk about those beacon units because those are really awesome. And I appreciate, Sheriff Elder, that you took a shot at this, these beacon units. This is, you know, the opportunity for law enforcement, a deputy, to ride along with a licensed behavioral health counselor and the two of them to go out into the community and do a lot of really great things where when you had a behavioral health issue, somebody in a state of mental distress, to use that team and de-escalate that. And in so many of those cases, to de-escalate where there was not an incarceration. And in fact, there was a movement towards other things like counseling, which is in many cases what that person really needed. That was great. And you know what? That got noticed, Bill. You know this. Now there are beacon units in other public agencies throughout El Paso County, and it's getting noticed in other parts of the state. This is something that's going to grow and get bigger, and I think we were kind of an experimental place for a lot of that work. So I just think that was great. That's an example of leadership. Again, it was a whole team, but it's also who's in charge and running it. And one last thing, an expression of appreciation for your taking on those illegal marijuana grows that were out east. Very, very dangerous work. You never knew who you were going to get involved with. You didn't know if they were going to respond back violently or not. And you did an enormous amount of preparation and work in advance to make sure that the outcome would be successful with nobody harmed in the process. And those were essential components of helping to keep El Paso County a safe place to live. So, Bill, Joy, I just want to express my appreciation to both of you for the great work that we did, all of the interfaces that we had. I explained some of them here, just some examples. And thank you again for your dedicated service to El Paso County in all the different ways that you did that, expressed in the proclamation. And I want to continue to wish you the best of luck. And one last time, thank you again for your service.
Thanks, Commissioners.
Thank you. Glad Wyatt could make his entrance there as well. Okay.
What's his birthday?
This has been moved and seconded. I will call the roll. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Congratulations, and we miss you.
Thank you. Miss you guys too. Thanks everybody for being there. Staff, I'll turn around so we can see who's there.
And if you all wouldn't mind staying on the screen, you are huge behind us in a 20-foot fashion. I think we will call a recess and take a quick picture.
We're huge.
Huge. We're huge. So we need to be unique. Mitch.
Are we in the picture?
And we're above it. So smile.
Oh boy.
Okay, thank you. We will call this meeting back to order, and we're on item number 6.
Item number 6 is the consent calendar consisting of item numbers 6A1 through 6D2.
Okay, is there anyone in the public wishing to speak on items 6A through D2? Anyone online for the consent calendar? Okay, I'll bring it up here for any questions, comments, and a motion.
I move approval of our consent calendar, items 6A1 through 6D2. Or through, I'm sorry, 6-8D2.
Second.
On consent calendar, sorry.
Ms. Clerk, did that? Okay. That has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf,
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The consent calendar passes 5-0. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes, thank you. It's wonderful to be here today. I don't have too much to report on. So we had some interesting CCI meetings on Thursday and Friday when I was able to listen into them. And as the legislative session meets, it is always interesting to see what they are doing. This week, as far as my calendar, I do have the Tri-Lake State of the Chamber luncheon today. I will be attending the Pikes Peak Regional Water Authority tomorrow. I do have my STAC meeting on Thursday, which means I will not be able to attend the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments legislative breakfast on Thursday morning. And I will make every effort to attend the Care and Share Recipe for Hope. That's going to be hard with my STAC meeting usually going until 12 or 12:30. And the HBA annual awards dinner is occurring on Thursday night. And Friday we have the PPACG board workshop. And Saturday, for my first ever, I get to be a judge for the El Paso County Fair Queen. So that will be quite the experience. I'm going to enjoy that. And those are all of my items on my week. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So earlier this week, yesterday, I participated as a liaison in the El Paso County Retirement Board meeting. Continued to be a great meeting, and we've done some great work in trying to make sure that remains a good, solid retirement system over the past couple of years. What's been happening with the stock market here recently has been a little tough on that retirement pension system, but it's been tough on all of them. And there is an expectation that that will rebound back. So we're looking forward to that. Also met with a broadband service provider on behalf of some of my constituents on the west side of El Paso County, trying to find some solutions about how to deliver broadband in an area that has not had good cell service for quite some time. And in fact, the phone service and cell service are often so spotty there that one of the challenges the residents have, they live near a forest, and often their 911 service isn't working either. So that's an important thing to make sure that that is resolved. So I think we made progress in that meeting. I'm looking forward to getting a long-term strategic style permanent solution for that challenge for those residents on the west side. Now, starting tomorrow, I will be departing again for Washington, D.C. It certainly is not my intention to travel to D.C. a lot, but it seems like a lot recently. But it's actually one trip last month and one trip this month, and then I don't see traveling back to D.C. probably until September. However, I will be going tomorrow back, and I'm going to start off by going to the CPAC conference that will be this week. And then I'll be participating in the Association of Defense Communities National Convention, which is part of the Defense Mission Task Force Board that I'm a liaison to. And that national summit will be working with helping Congress to understand some of the challenges that communities have around the nation when they have a large presence of military bases, and we certainly are one of those in the country here. What this does mean is that I will not be at the Board of County Commissioners meeting next week. I won't be able to participate in that, and unfortunately, there'll be a couple of other things that I won't be able to participate in as well, but I'll be doing my duties as a commissioner out in D.C. For about a week-long period. And then when I return on the Monday after I get back on 13 March, I'll be participating in the state's Homeland Security Advisory Committee meeting. I was just recently appointed to that. I'm the CCI liaison to that board. CCI has one appointment. And that's all I have on my list of items for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too will get to participate in the Care and Share Luncheon. They do great work for our community, so I'm looking forward to that. Friday, I'm on my State Board of Veteran Affairs committee meeting will be on Friday morning. We'll participate in that as well. And then I believe it's also Thursday, monthly National Association of Counties. I'm a member of the nationwide Justice and Public Safety's subcommittee, and so I'll participate in my monthly meeting there. And then just want to highlight might get highlighted again is efforts again by the county commissioners advocating for our community at our Thursday and Fridays. Last week, CCI, or Colorado Counties Incorporated, is our statewide association. We help craft positions against or for monitoring on some of these bills we're seeing from the state, and you've got, I think you have advocates here fighting for our community to make sure that we don't see overreach from the state and taking positions on bills that support our community or take actions to, we will oppose any of those bills that are hurting our community as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. As I'm recovering a bit from a cold here, so my voice is a little bit recovering. Just my voice. It's okay, I promise. I wanted to talk about a couple of things, including the CCI Steering Committee. And sometimes we talk about the work that we do here, and it's not always easy to directly connect it to things that are happening in a community. So I wanted to talk about something specific that happened and thank KOA for doing a story actually on this. There's been some concern around the increase in youth violence that we've seen in our community, and that was a story that happened. But this is exactly the example of the kind of thing that we participate in CCI for. When these bills are coming down that say that we are reducing or decriminalizing essentially various activities, those are the kind of things that we are trying to get back to our state. Please don't do these things. Here's how we believe it's going to affect us. Sometimes we're able to affect those things positively. Sometimes, quite frankly, the legislature doesn't listen to us, but we continue to do what we can to voice those things through that mechanism of CCI because there are so many things that the state does that tie our hands as a local government. And so it's important that we continue to weigh in on those things because, as we are seeing, they are very impactful to our community. Yesterday, I also participated along with Commissioner Gonzalez and the Opioid Council. It was a very interesting meeting. We were talking about a lot of the gaps in our community. I like to remind everyone every time I talk about the Opioid Council, these are not taxpayer dollars directly. They are a settlement from pharmaceutical companies and folks involved in the prescription of opioids that are being utilized in our community through that legal settlement as a way to combat the results of the huge prescriptions of opioids that have caused a lot of problems in our community. So I did want to point out, for the benefit of all of the commissioners, that a couple of the key things that were brought forward in that public meeting about gaps that we see in our community. And the things that were talked about greatly were detox ability, as well as youth services. We don't have a lot of services to help youth who are addicted to be able to address those needs specifically, and as well as a lack of inpatient beds that we can have available for folks who are suffering from this addiction and need treatment. So those were really important things, some things that we, I think, hope to tackle through the Opioid Council. And this is beneficial to our entire community. It's beneficial to the individuals who are obviously need help in these situations, but it's also beneficial to our community because we know that there's a correlation oftentimes between folks being involved and also crime in our community. So I think that those were some great conversations, and look forward to the final plan, which we'll be submitting in March, which will detail what we're actually going to spend all of the funds that are coming in. And I think it's around $6 million. I'm looking at Commissioner Gonzalez in case he's going to correct me here, but I think it's around $6 million that will be for our first 2-year period. Other than that, I also had a regional building meeting last week, and I did want to report that one of the things that we're seeing is a slowdown from past years in growth. It's been consistent since about summer of last year. It is probably not a complete accident that is also when interest rates began to rise. So it is having that effect on growth in our community, which is the intended of the federal government, is to slow growth in our economy. So that's not completely unsurprising, but that was reported in that meeting. And then my last comment here quickly is when we were doing the pledge this morning, which now seems quite a long way ago, it reminded me of a post that I was shared by a friend of mine who, it was the 1912 8th grade testing for graduating the 8th grade and what you were required to do. I always really find these things fascinating to look back historically. And under civics, it required students to tell the difference between a democracy, a monarchy, and a republic. And I thought that was remarkable. As I was speaking the word republic, it reminded me, and it was a really good reminder of how important education is, not just to the future of our kids. We often talk about it a lot in terms of jobs and all of those things, but the future of our nation. And it's truly why public education is so important, is that we need everyone to understand our nation, how it is set up, and how it is supposed to work in order for it to work, in order for self-governance to work. And so that word republic is very significant, and it is often, especially with politicians, replaced with democracy these days. And there is a significant difference. One of the quotes that I'm sure is not foreign to most of you is that democracy is 2 wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for lunch. And that's a really good reminder of why we are not a pure direct democracy here in the US. So thank you for indulging my little need to just talk about that today. And it was a great reminder. And I hope that it's something that we all pay a lot of attention to, is the change in civics education and how important that is to the continuation of America as we know it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Geithner. Great comments from all of my colleagues today. You know, as I look over my very busy calendar for the week as well, there seems to be a theme of nonprofits and other organizations that are doing great work in our community. Tomorrow, I will be attending Pikes Peak United Way's event on where we turn in times of need. And both of our DHS director, Stacy Quiddick, and our Deputy Director, Chris Garvin, are panelists on that. And certainly we in social services or any formal piece of government couldn't do what we need to do fully to serve our citizens without the help of nonprofits and other organizations that are performing well in that area. I also have the Care and Share annual luncheon, and then I will be speaking to at a JAWS event. JAWS stands for Jumpstart Our Aging Workforce. And, you know, we've seen a lot of, I sit with Commissioner Vanderwerf on our Pikes Peak Workforce Center Consortium Board, and we do know that there are several areas of workforce development need in this community. One of those hardest hit is the nursing and healthcare industry, and most certainly that extends to long-term care as a specific need. And so I will be addressing at a job fair for UCCS students and others how what the impacts of that are on our community, and how we can recruit and fill some of those spots that are much needed, particularly in the long-term care sector of our aging workforce. And then finally, on Friday, I have the honor of sitting on a panel in Denver with our U.S. Surgeon General, speaking on on youth mental health. And so I'll be working, certainly there's crossover with what we do here at DHS as well on that, and in the public safety sector. So I'll be kind of representing the government intersections of what we can and shouldn't do with our other partners on addressing youth mental health. And with that, do we have any countywide elected officials on the line? Okay, hearing none, moving on to item number 8.
Item number 8 is community service organization reports, and there are none.
Okay, item 9.
Item number 9 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. This is the public's opportunity to comment on an item not scheduled on today's agenda. And Madam Chair, we did have 3 people sign in before the meeting started: Mr. Tom Martin, Mr. Philip Schechter, and Mr. Matthew Grubasic.
Okay, sounds great. Are there any others wishing to speak today? Did everybody get a chance to sign in? Okay, we'll have you come down and sign in, and then Mr. Martin, will begin with you. If you're already signed in, so if you would please announce your name for the public record, and your 3 minutes will begin. Thank you, sir.
Morning, Commissioners. Again, I would like to tell you how difficult this is for me. This is not easy to have a commitment that I feel is very important to me. It may be different than your point of view when it comes to public land and planning, land use, and development. When it comes to the Planning Commission, the term planning means equivalency of proactive, that you've planned something, that we have a master plan, that we have a water master plan. What I don't see is the fact of how they're actually integrated in the process very well. I'm going to go into what I could call development to nowhere. Heard of the Bridge to Nowhere in Alaska? We go through the development process, each individual development with almost no concern over how they connect to one another. Let's just take Volmer Road for an example. You'll get one developer, yeah, there's one way in and one way out, and he's got himself 10 acres. So he builds that particular subdivision. Then 6 months later, the landowner next to him decides to build a development, 10 acres. He puts in his. They do all the checklists, go through all the whole process. Then you approve that one. What is not going on is the fact of how they connect to one another. This is why we have a north and south and east and west problem with driving through the community. I've been in our community for my entire lifetime, and I understand this is how we've always done it. What I'm trying to get to you is there is a better way. When we come, in 2016 and 18, we spent tens of thousands of dollars to come up with a El Paso County water plan. The biggest recommendation that plan had was that before a development even is hardly considered, you have an availability and a sustainability statement from the water supplier. You shouldn't even hardly entertain the development unless you have that already pre-approved, and this is an actual letter of availability and sustainability. It should also include the wastewater component. Just because it's saying the wastewater is over 2,000 gallons per day, we're going to throw that off to the state, but you're going to approve it anyway. That's not a good example. These water and wastewater issues should be solved before the county approves each individual project, and there needs to be more thought of interconnectivity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. And I believe next on the list we have Mr. Schechter. Mr. Schechter, if you'd like to come forward, and you'll have 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Do the overhead, please.
Blake, can we get the overhead? Thank you. Flip it over.
Get it focused. Well, I've had your clerk pass out copies to all 5 of you. Okay, thank you. That's better. All right. Good morning, Commissioners. I am Philip Schechter, a resident of Flying Horse North. I appeared before you November 15th, 2022, during the Flying Horse North sketch plan hearing, seeking to modify the subdivision that you approved on September 4th, 2018, replacing the remaining 202 undeveloped residential properties with a 225-room luxury hotel complex and an additional 896 residential units. On that chart, you will see your percentages of campaign contributions received from Flying Horse North developer and affiliates compared with totals received from all other contributors. Mrs. Brimmer, you and Mrs. Geithner and Mrs. Williams all received over 32% from that developer and his affiliates. El Paso County adopted the rules and procedures of the State of Colorado Independent Ethics Commission, which defines, quote, appearance of impropriety means conduct perceived by a reasonable person to impair the ability to carry out official responsibilities with fairness, impartiality, objectivity, and integrity, unquote. I requested you and the county attorney to place this ethics issue on an agenda calendar at a public hearing to create a process when an appearance of impropriety is evident and a quorum is not possible. You refused. What are you afraid of? Campaign contributions themselves are legal. However, when they come from a developer and his affiliates and compared to total contributions you each received are of a substantial percentage of that total, and in my opinion, such as 15% and greater, and the developer brings a matter for your consideration, that commissioner needs to be automatically recused to avoid an appearance of impropriety. And you need a process when a quorum is unattainable to handle the same. I suggest maintaining a list of community volunteers to temporarily be appointed to serve as commissioners to hear the matter for fairness to all parties. Given the appearance of impropriety of Mrs. Geithner and Brimmer, you both should have recused yourselves from the November 15th sketch plan hearing, which would have prevented a quorum and required another process. I'm asking you to set aside the approval decision of the sketch plan. I'm asking you to reset a hearing de novo after you create a process and procedure to follow when an appearance of impropriety occurs and a quorum of 3 commissioners is not possible. Resulting from responses I received from County Attorney Hodges and Commissioner Williams, it appears as though it was unilaterally decided these percentages of campaign contributions are not appearances of impropriety. This is not 1 or 2 persons' decision to make. It is necessary this matter becomes addressed at a public hearing as an agenda item. Facts indicate to a reasonable person whether or not there is an appearance of impropriety. Thus, this matter needs a public discussion and determination. I further informed each of you that you could request an advisory opinion from the State of Colorado Independent Ethics Commission. It would have been an advisory opinion. I provided you with all necessary contact information, and to date, you have failed to send a request, nor has any person associated with this county done so. My question is, why not? Please set aside your sketch plan decision of November 15th. Set this ethics matter on an agenda for a public hearing for the purpose of creating a process for fairness and impartiality for everyone's benefit. Thereafter, redo the sketch plan hearing with 3 volunteers from the community having no ties to the developer nor people in opposition to hear the matter along with Commissioners Vander Werf and Gonzalez, who did not exceed substantial campaign contributions that would cause them to be recused. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schechter.
Yes?
Thank you. Next on the list for public comment.
Next is Mr. Matthew Grubisic.
Thank you, Mr. Schechter. Your 3 minutes are up.
So can you answer some of my questions? How about setting this on an agenda item so that public hearing can be had? That is really important. Would you agree to do that, please? And
Madam
put it
Chair.
on an agenda in the future?
Madam Chair, if I could interject really quickly. Mr. Schechter, public comment is not a time for a back and forth dialogue. You've received your answer as far as this not being scheduled as an agenda item for you to present to the board.
I'm sorry, are you saying that you will consider putting it on as an agenda item? Is that what I'm hearing or not?
Sir, that's not my call, but the board has actually spoken on that matter. And so this will not be scheduled for a specific agenda item for you to present your legal advice to the board.
So is that based on your interpretation of that U.S. Supreme Court case that you and I discussed earlier today?
Sir, I'm not going to argue what the law is with you on the record today.
No, but this is the community wants this heard. What are you all afraid of?
I'm sorry, this is an inappropriate use of our public comment period, sir. You've had your 3 minutes, and I would ask that you respect the other people in this room who have come to speak and give them their 3 minutes.
I actually tried to get this, and I was informed by your clerk that I could have people give me their 3 minutes. Then I was informed on Friday in an email by your county attorney that your rule is no, all I had is 3 minutes. So I literally took what I had prepared, which was a lot longer presentation, and cut it down as short as I could. And all I'm asking you to do is do your jobs, do what you were elected to do. And this ethical problem is a legal problem, and you need to address it. And I'm asking you to please schedule a hearing. I don't care if it's next month or the month after, but schedule an agenda
Mr.
item.
Schechter, you have had your 3 minutes
you.
with a gracious extension of that. Certainly, anyone who is here who would like to have 3 minutes is welcome to do so. That has always been our board policy, that public comment is 3 minutes. And anyone can speak in that. When you have seen us combine time, it has been in a land use hearing where there are 2 sides, and that's our board policy. This is a regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners with a public comment period, and the rules are different, but they're unchanged. Thank you
I
very
also
much.
understand that 2 of you can set this. Thank you.
And Ms. Clerk, are you able to read that last name that we have signed up for public
Yes,
comment, please?
Yes, Mr. Matthew Grubisic.
Thank you. Hi. Please state your name again for the record, and your 3 minutes will begin then.
Matthew Grubisic. I think you can tell Phil's passion here when it comes to this one issue in Flying Horse North sketch plan. My question today is, I still never got an answer why the Black Forest Preservation Plan was mysteriously removed from the county's master plan in 2020. It seems as though your new master plan has many vague areas in it, and that was reflected upon the November 15th meeting where we all spoke against the sketch plan, except Mr. Gonzalez, who truly brought out the fact that why have a county master plan if we're not going to follow it? So can you get that on the agenda to have it reinstated? Or will we ever find out why it was ever taken out of the county's master plan? Because none of you have any idea. I addressed that question to you, Stan, and you said you had no idea. But I think that's really important because we wouldn't be here today discussing the sketch plan because it wouldn't pertain to the rural area that they're trying to put in this massive high-density housing complex along with a high-density it may be apartments, but hotel. Next question is, Holly, you know, I've been to these meetings before. You recused yourself from this, never got an answer. And you also recused yourself from the conflict of interest with your husband being on the board of Runbeck Voting Systems. Is he still on that board? You recused yourself from that when there were 75 of your constituents here voicing a concern about the voting process in El Paso County. And there were 75 of us when you recused yourself against Flying Horse North sketch plan. You didn't listen to us. That's kind of hard to believe. And you ran your campaign based on supporting the Black Forest Preservation Plan, which is no longer taking precedent in the county, and it should. Is there a reason why you didn't support this at when the 2020 new master plan was developed? It should be in the plan. This is all we're concerned about. You've got 80 people here that bought houses in this area, not to mention me in the rural part of El Paso County. We don't want it, but yet you denied us, and we constantly get denied. And this is happening in the city, and it's happening in the county. Wayne and the city council just approved 8,000-seat outdoor amphitheater at Polaris Point by Bass Pro with 230 on-site parking places. Everyone's going to park in all these neighborhoods. People were livid. It was the same process. We showed up. We discussed it. Denied. All I can say is there is an impropriety here. Why are 92% of these developments being approved and the public's voice not being heard? It's relentless. So how do we get the Black Forest Preservation Plan on the agenda to be reinstated? Does anyone know? Is it possible?
Your time is up, sir. Thank you very much. And if there are specific questions that we are
One other thing I'd like to add. The campaign shows good and bad in our city for Wayne. And the bad is the congestion. And that's nothing.
Please
That's a
respect
result
the
of
time
high
limits.
density housing, apartments, et cetera.
Thank you.
That this board and the city continues to pass.
Thank you,
So
sir.
that's why it's bad.
Thank you. Are there any others wishing to speak in public comment? Sir, oh, thank you very much. I'm sorry, I don't have your name. Please introduce yourself for the record. Yeah, thank you.
My name is Joe Hall. I've signed your sign-in sheet. I'm a resident of El Paso County off of Hodgen Road, and I am come basically to support the viewpoints of Mr. Schechter. Not that I'm necessarily opposed to development. I'm in the real estate development and ownership business. But what I'm opposed to is what appears to me a glaring impropriety on the part of this board, members of this board, to be voting on the approval of the Flying Horse North subdivision, given the campaign contribution data that Mr. Schechter had up on the screen. And I'm requesting that this board place on its agenda for a regular public hearing an examination of any appearance of impropriety of this board voting on matters affecting that subdivision. I mean, it screams at me. I'm not the law, but it screams at me, what the heck is going on? How can you guys not be recusing yourself when you're receiving campaign contributions in proportions that you've received from the developer? I mean, I've been in the development business for 30 years. This is nuts. Somebody needs to pull the board back to the law, back to the ethics, and examine this question, or there's going to be bigger problems later down the road. Do it now, or it'll be a bigger problem later on. Please schedule this examination for a public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone online wishing to speak? And sir, are you wishing to speak? You signed in. Okay. Come on down, please introduce yourself. And then your 3 minutes will begin. Wants to get you tangled up.
My name's Scott Riebel, and I live out in Black Forest, and I support what Phil Schechter has presented today. I think I'm a reasonable person, and the sheer volume or the sheer amount of campaign contributions that you guys have received is, I can't in my mind reconcile the fact that it can't have some kind of influence on how you're making decisions with regard to some of these developments. And I have other concerns as well. The gentleman that brought up the discussion about the Black Forest Preservation Plan. When you were first running for county commissioner, you went out to Black Forest, and I was the one who asked you if you were going to embrace and enforce the Black Forest Preservation Plan. And you swore to me in that meeting that you would hold that dear to your heart and you would make sure that the legacy of that plan was maintained through and in order to preserve the character of the Black Forest. You told me that, and I took you at your word. I voted for you on the basis of that. And I'm disappointed that you recused yourself during that last meeting, because I felt like I didn't have anybody on the board that was representing me. You're my commissioner. I was hoping that you would have done something. The other concern that I have is the amount of money that was spent on the master plan, and I'm having difficulty understanding whether or not the current master plan is advisory or is it compulsory. I mean, there's sections in the master plan that I've read that said the minimum acreage size now has been reduced from the Black Forest Preservation Plan. It used to be 5 acres. Now it's down to 2.5 acres. So is that compulsory? Do you have to follow this master plan and in order to maintain the character of the Black Forest? Or is it something that's simply advisory that we've spent, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, I guess, developing? Are you just going to simply take that as advisory and then dismiss it? And, it just seems like a waste of taxpayer money. If you're not going to take the master plan seriously and enforce the tenets of the plan that have already been codified in that thing, if you're not going to enforce it, why have it? Last 3 seconds. Water issues are a real concern. Last comprehensive water study for aquifers was in 1987. They didn't do any quantitative analysis of what's available, but the continuing development is putting a strain on the aquifers that are beneath us. And I know that there's a lot of metro boards that say they have access, they have water rights in a specific area, and they guarantee those water rights, but those are paper water rights. Is the resource really there to allow this unchecked development going on. Anyway, I've exceeded my time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Sir, to your comments, I actually appreciate what you brought forward, and there's no need to have a dialogue between us. You can just listen in. But we rely on the state water board for those water rights. But to your point, it has been some time since the state has actually characterized the equivalence between water rights and water availability. They did do that, but it's been some time since they've done that. It does seem to me that it would be a good idea for the state to maybe reaccomplish that, to make sure that those two are still equivalent. The idea being they have an understanding about X amount of water rights, and you really ought to be kind of connecting that to actually the water that's available, right? So because it's been some time, and I don't know if the date that you mentioned is the right date or the wrong date, but it's been a long time, might not be a bad idea for the State Water Board to actually reaccomplish that again. Because I do worry that the State Water Board, which developers can go to acquire water rights and so forth, I worry because they're doling out those rights to developers in Douglas County and doling out those rights to developers in El Paso and doling them out to developers in other counties. And I'm just hopeful that they're doing their job. But it does seem to me like it might not be a bad idea for the state to kind of reassess that. So to that point, there are other things that we could have more conversation about, but to the point that you made there, I think it would be a good idea for the state to actually redo that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. I do want to make a comment. I am a huge supporter of free speech, and so I'm glad that you are all here and have been able to express your thoughts here. But as I often do here, I like to correct the record sometimes when I feel like we're in a public place. We have media here. We have streaming, which is great for the public to see, but it makes it more important to me to kind of correct the record on a couple of things. So the contribution analysis that was displayed and passed out, this is very interesting. I'm not exactly sure how Mr. Or the individual who spoke got to these numbers. Because number one, corporations are not allowed to give contributions. And so there is no contribution from Flying Horse North specifically that could have been given from a corporation. So there's obviously some conglomeration or some assumptions or connections that have been made. So it would be difficult for me to accept this as accurate for that reason, number one. Number two, I want to just kind of address, I certainly understand there's a low trust in government in general in the United States today. I understand that. I'm distrustful of government. That might surprise you. But there's also a component of this that as an individual, I have the responsibility on this board when we have quasi-judicial issues to make those decisions. I have a responsibility to decide if I can be impartial. That is what the choice becomes when we make a decision to recuse from a topic. Those are conversations that we have. We do have an attorney that we consult with. It's not as if what seems to be being presented is that this is not a consideration or there's some big cover-up. And so I just want to make that clear that there's a lot of nuance here and a lot of things that have not been particularly clear in terms of what has been presented, and I would not accept this as fact to begin with. Number two would be on a quasi-judicial hearing. Not only do I have the responsibility to determine whether I can be impartial, but I am to be impartial. And that means that I don't just count the number of people in the audience who are for or against something and vote that way. And that is because it's done on the merits. It's done based on criteria. And there is also a responsibility to uphold to individuals their own rights. And so I cannot, in good conscience, violate the rights of a landowner. I cannot do any of those things. I have to take all of those things as a package. That's my job. And so I just want to clarify the record a little bit, because it's easy to certainly, especially when you do not agree with the decision, to believe that there are nefarious reasons, to believe that there's something underlying. But I wanted to clarify that those are all the considerations that have to be made. And while I support the ability for each one of you to come here and say whatever you'd like about me, those things I don't think accurately reflect what is the truth. So I appreciate the latitude, Madam Chair, to make those comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number, Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Normally, I don't comment on comments from the public, as was brought up, but I appreciate the comments. Again, I appreciate the clarifications, but also on some things, I'll be honest. I mean, some of the numbers here, I'm very proud of the fact when I ran that first race, that primary, I self-funded 98%, 97% of my own race. So everybody knows I'm unbiased. And I'm not saying because you receive any money that you're not also unbiased, but I just want to put that on the record. This number here excluded I self-funded 98%. So, and everybody knows I'm going to look at the data and make votes based on all the information, and I always make what I believe is the best decision. Somebody did bring up, and I said it back then, and somebody rightly quoted me, we updated our master plan. And what we tried to do was not get rid of the old plan, but incorporate it into the master plan. And that's why when staff said several weeks ago that the hotel portion, at the very least, of that Flying Horse North was not compatible with the master plan, I supported staff and I voted against it because I did agree, if we have a master plan, shouldn't we use it? And that's why I did support and vote the way I did. And so I do support that, and we should be looking, again, somebody said, is it mandatory or not? It's not mandatory that something in there in the master plan needs to be voted one way or the other, but if we have it, I think we should use it, and that's why I voted that way as well. And then again, First Amendment, if developers want to donate money, the rules are the rules, but it does concern me. It does look like they're getting some outside influence in determining the outcomes of elections. That does not necessarily mean that is biasing elected personnel, but it does concern me the amount of money that is influencing election outcomes locally. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify a few issues. So first of all, there are campaign finance contribution limits that came in with effect by the state legislature. Also, I wanted to say that when we approved the master plan, I think I read through it 3 separate times before we approved it, and I made several long comments on that because I knew the importance of the Black Forest Preservation Plan, and I also knew that the master plan would replace all of the small area plans, from the Tri-Lakes area plan to the Highway 94 plan. I can't remember what that one was called. There was a Falcon small area plan as well. And so I spent significant time on that as to why I thought it was a good plan. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 10, which was taken out of order following item number 5. So item number 11.
Item number 11 is the called up consent calendar, and there are no items called up.
Item 12.
Item number 12 is department and committee reports, non-action items, and there are none.
Item 13.
Item number 13 is the addendum. There is no addendum today.
And 14.
Item number 14 is executive session. There is no request for executive session.
This meeting is adjourned.